Welcome. I'm going to let people get in here and get settled. I have put in a poll today, so I'd really like to hear what your thoughts are. I'm going to go ahead and hit the start button. And I really just want to know, what is the one thing you want to learn more about when it comes to business planning? We have a framework for today, but I want to know where you need the most support, and maybe I can help answer some of those questions. So if you want to go ahead and jump in there and answer that poll question, that would be awesome. Also, if you want to throw into the chat where you're from and what your role is, and maybe how big is your team? Like, what are we looking for in terms of, are we a small team? Are we having, 15 agents on our team? The other thing to note is, if you want to talk, there's a request for mic access next to your name. And so as we're going through this, I will pause for questions. And at that point, you can just click that button. I will see it, and then we'll be able to have a conversation back and forth. So welcome. We're just going to get started here. Like I said, we've got people that are rolling in, and I want to give everybody time to get settled. Got people joining. I'm hoping everybody's having a good week. I am in Central Illinois, and it has turned a little fallish, so to speak. We are definitely wearing jackets and long sleeves and using blankets. It is here. So for those of you that are new, I just ask that you jump in, throw in your information into the chat box, what your role is, how many agents do you support, and where are you? There is also a poll up about the one thing that you really want to know the most about in regards to business planning. And I'm going to give everybody probably a couple more minutes just to get in. I know that my days get away from me sometimes. Hi, Russ. I love that PJ works with you. Welcome, welcome. The other place that you can ask questions if you're interested is there's a question box. I find it easier when I don't have a co-facilitator with me just to answer all the questions in the chat. But I will try to pay attention there as much as possible. Okay, I'm going to give everybody one more minute, and then we're gonna get started. Woo, Denise, 9 inches of snow. I am not prepared for that. My in-laws live in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and they were sending pictures of their snow. And yesterday it was rainy here, and there was like little spitty snow, right? And like hit the ground, and I'm just not emotionally prepared yet. I don't know how you guys do it in Minnesota. All right. Looks like we are. Seats are getting filled. Yeah, kids and dogs always seem to love the snow. My cats are not happy with the cold weather. They can't go out in their catio, and I cannot sit on my back porch comfortably. So, all right, guys, I want to get started. We've got a lot of things to cover here today, and I really want to take the opportunity and thank you all for being here. I know we're all busy, and we've got really packed calendars, and we're going into the holiday months where we're literally squeezing 30 days of work into, 2.5 or 3 weeks in a month. So thank you again. One of the things that I like to share about myself is that I'm relatively new to real estate and even for-profit business. I've been with Keller Williams now for 7 years. And it was definitely my intent that it was just going to be a layover. I was coming out of a 10-year career at a nonprofit, and I was kind of burnt out. And somebody said to me, hey, my friend is hiring for the real estate office, and it'd be something you could do until. And I went in, and what was interesting about it is over a weekend, I read the MREA model, and I went back to my mega, who was not a mega at the time, and said, this totally makes sense to me. This is what I've been doing my entire career in nonprofit and higher education. And that is creating raving fans and really driving database engagement. And I think we can do this together. And so through that evolution, we actually level 7'd him out of the business. We were closing 300 transactions a year, and I went into expansion. And from expansion, met my business partner, Sabrina CG. And we really have taken what expansion and what teams offer and looked at holistically, how do we provide value to teams, individual agents, small teams that just need some support, and how do we really deliver on the amazing model that Gary Keller has given to all of us. And so part of where I think the most important work that we do gets done is this time of year. And it really comes down to not just having a business plan, right? How many of us have gone to the business planning clinic that our region or the market center offers, and we're super excited, and we go in and we build out this plan and we are going to kill it. And then we go back to the office the next day and we have no true execution plan, right? Like we have a plan and it looks great. Like we have looked at our numbers and we are going to kill it next year, but then we don't have that next step, which is to execute it. And then even if we do get into an execution mode, we can't stay and set it and forget it, especially in the world we're living in right now, right? So we need to think in terms of everybody out there is scrolling through their phones and they are wanting bite-sized content and they want an amazing Chick-fil-A experience every time they go in and dealing with anybody in a service-based industry. So if we're not evaluating every 90 days, and we're not really looking and saying, what is working really, really well that we don't want to touch? We're just going to continue that for the next 90. What works okay? Like we're seeing some results or the system itself is working, but we need to work out some kinks. We need to identify that. And then what isn't working at all? And so where I see a lot of opportunity for teams and small teams is that, one, we have a tendency to expect perfection the first week we execute, right? And so sometimes what we see is people just give up on the process within that first 30 days. Oh, this isn't working. This is too hard. I don't like this. It's not comfortable. I'm too busy. And we know, right, from the one thing, it takes 66 days to form a habit. So why would we expect any less from our execution strategy? We have to have enough time to look at the data. The other thing I see that happens is they throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? So this middle section, it works okay, but it needs to be refined. It's really easy to keep the stuff that works really well, right? Like as admin, especially, we're like, don't touch our stuff. It's working. Don't mess with it. Let's keep moving. But this works okay. sometimes ego comes in here to this place. And we're going to talk about that a little bit as we go through this, is that most of the time it's your operations folks, right, that are building these systems. And so it hurts sometimes when we've built it and people are like, yeah, I don't like this. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. So how do we take ego out and let the numbers tell a story? And then what isn't working at all? It may not actually be that you need to junk it, scrap it, put it in the scrap heap. It may be we've had 90 days, like we know what our intention was, and now we've had 90 days. Do we need to shift either the expectation of what we were hoping to get out of this? Should it belong to another person to drive it? Is it simply not a fit for our organization? And so you need to be asking those questions, and really challenging yourself and your business again every 90 day. If you right now I am reading the 12-week work year, and it's a good book, and they also have a workbook that goes with it, and it really talks about running these 90-day sprints and how to really evaluate. So one of my favorite quotes from Jim Collins: greatness is not a function of circumstance. Greatness, it turns out, is largely a matter of conscious choice and discipline. And we know when we're trying new things, or we're implementing a new strategy, or we're implementing a new tool like Command, sometimes it's just really uncomfortable and it's not fun and it's clunky. And the people that we know in our worlds that win, right, that they continue to win, are the ones that are disciplined enough to do the work, time on task over time, and then evaluate the result. So it's a way of getting the mindset in your team environment shifted to, you know, again, 90 days. We can all do something for 90 days. So the first thing we want to talk about really is, when you go into business planning, a lot of times it's really fun to just start in with the planning for next year, right? We're burnt out by this time of the year, and we pretty much our listing inventory that's on the market today that's what's going to sell by the end of this year, and people are starting to check out. It is, hey, it's almost Thanksgiving, hey, it's almost Christmas. But I challenge you to really, not just as an individual admin or rainmaker or team leader, but really all of your agents on your team need to do some evaluation. And the way that we do that is, number one question, did we hit our goals in 2020? Did we set goals in 2020? And if we didn't hit our goals, what is the gap? And the gap is, honestly, guys, there's two ways to look at the gap. Do you have a gap in units? Meaning I had a unit goal, our team had a unit goal to sell 100 homes, and we only sold 90. Or did you have a GCI goal of, we're going to make $1 million in GCI this year, and we only hit 700,000? And sometimes you may have hit your units, but you didn't hit your GCI, or you hit your GCI goal with fewer units. And so then you want to really look at that. Is there a pattern there? Have you upped your price point? And if you've consistently upped your price point, does that mean that you're going to lower your unit goal coming into 2021? So you're really looking at those numbers, and you want to look at them not just holistically as the team, but like I said, we want to see individually, how did the agents do? Like, they set a goal, did they hit it? The other piece to this is listing evaluation. So we know listings bring us leads, leads pay for the leverage, and we go around in the circle or the triangle. And it's really important sometimes, right? Like we get in the grind of, oh my gosh, I got to get a listing. I got a listing. I got a listing. We got to get it on the market, and we're moving and we're moving and we're moving, and we got to have an open house. And so all of this frenetic energy is happening. But how often are we actually looking and saying, where's our days on market at? Are we pacing ahead or behind our local market? What about where are we in the market center? Had we decided in 2020 that we were going to focus on a certain location, whether that be a zip code or a neighborhood or an exclusive gated community, and then are you looking back and saying, okay, we did have 60% of our listings in the zip code that we wanted to target this year? Or, oh man, we had this plan, but we didn't really execute, and we really only ended up with 2 listings in our ideal location. The other piece of that is list to sale percentage. Are you competitive? Do your listing agents know how to list competitively so you're at 98 to 99% list to sale or above, if possible, every time, right? Sellers want one thing. They want their house sold for the top amount of money. Who is going to get them the most amount of money to get them out of their house? We're also looking at top performing lead sources. And this is especially true right now in sort of this weird space that we're in where, we were on lockdown, now we're not on lockdown. Interest rates are, ridiculously low. There's just a little bit of uncertainty. And so are we spending money on leads? Is anybody paying for Zillow leads? Are we paying for, Facebook campaigns, frankly, through command? Are they giving you what you need? And so you need to really look at what are your top performing lead sources. Every business should have 2 or 3 where no matter what, they can count on those 2 or 3 lead sources to sustain their business going into every single year. And then systems evaluation. How many times do we stop and really look at our systems? And I'm talking all your systems, right? Everything from your CRM to your direct mail campaigns to how you put out signs. Do you have a sign company? Do you have a runner? Is it up to one of the admin or one of the agents who's putting out open house signs? How are you tracking those things? So systems evaluation is going to provide clarity around, again, what have we been doing in 2020? And then as we're going into planning for 2021, how do we take that information from here and really define where we're going? So this is an example of our toolbox. So at the end of this, I'll be talking a little bit more about our toolbox, but we have a toolbox where we've come in and we've built out all the pieces that correspond with today. And where we've taken all the guesswork out of it, we've built in all of your formulas, and all you have to do is come in and put in the numbers. And so this is an example of what we're looking at when we're looking at closed and pending to close production. Why we have it broken out by buyers and sellers is that it ties to the economic model, right? Our economic model doesn't say how many total units are you going to sell this year and how much total GCI. It is broken down by both sides of the business. And it also asks what percentage of those total units are going to be buyers and what percentage is going to be sellers. So when you're tracking, you really want to break it down the way that the model is set up, because you want to go back. You built the model of 2020. You're going to build the model of 2021. What are those data points that are really important? And you also want to see percent of volume. So you'll see here where in our example, we did more buyer units, but our sales volume was higher on our listing side. And that's important because sales price, right, dictates commission. It's also important to know what your average sales prices are. And I always like to see what was our highest sales price of the year and what is our lowest sales price of the year. And if you know that, you'll be able to look, ideally, if you have really wonky outside of bounds high and lows, you want to know what the median is. And so you want to be able to look at this and say, oh, this price point is really skewed because I did 1.5 million in volume, but 700,000 of that was one unit, right? So just being able to get clarity from the numbers. And I think it's interesting, and I encourage you to have a goal versus actual. Now, a lot of you are likely using something like CTE, or actually put your goals into Command this year. Have your own tracking. The issue is we've got to look at it, right? We're not doing just for doing sake. There is an analysis that needs to be done before you go into planning for 2021. We also do an annual listing inventory. And this is something that you could potentially build out in a Command in terms of like your opportunity tags, and that sort of thing. Most of this data you can get directly from your MLS. And I think it's important. And you'll notice on location, right here, I have the farm, right? If you had a farm, we talked about that a little bit. Like where are our listings? Where can we say that we are the local expert, not just buckshot, right? Where we're just going to take a listing wherever. So I'll tell you a little story. When I first got in the business, we live in central Illinois, and it is a pretty, it's rural, right? So our sales prices are super low. Champaign-Urbana, where the market center is based, is a university town. And so you have university and hospitals, two big major hospitals there. And so they have a higher price point. We have what we call Southwest Champaign is where the meaty price points are. Now, meaty price points for us here in Central Illinois and in Southwest Urbana is, tippy top. You might see a couple go $700,000 or $800,000. Our average price point is $150,000. Well, my mega was from a little town outside of Champaign-Urbana called Rantoul. And I hope there's no one on here from Kentucky. I mean this in the best way possible, but we always refer to Rantoul as Rantucky. It's really run down. It's not a place anybody is picking up and going, this is my dream location, right? People move there because it's cheap and they can get to work a lot of times, but it's not like this amazing community that you're going to move into. Well, Nate was from there. And so his goal when I first started working with him is he wanted to be a luxury agent. And yet that first year, when we're doing this analysis, I'm like, Nate, the majority of our listings are in Rantoul. And the majority of your listing inventory was under $100,000. Like, how can we go and authentically say that you're a luxury agent if you're only listing in Rantoul? And so it really took looking at our listing inventory. Where were the majority of our listings over the year? And we made a very concerted effort then for that following year. We had a plan. And it meant that for every, 5 listing appointments that Nate went on, only one of those was for Rantoul. And we really started to target another bedroom community called Mahomet, where it is a very high profile community, one of the best school districts in the state. It's where a lot of the doctors and professors and high wage earners out of Champaign-Urbana actually live. And so we crafted a strategy that was what we were going to target. Now, I will tell you, people thought we were nuts. Nate had only been in the business a couple years. Remax owned they owned the community. They had been the top brokerage in the MLS and in our local area, and were based in Mahomet, and no joke, for 30 years. And so we just went at it, and we had a very clear strategy that was built by looking at our previous listing inventory. And within 1 year, you guys, we had built a mega agent office there. We had gone from 0 market share to we were splitting the top amount of market share with the Remax brokerage. And the following year, and ever since, Nate's been the number 1 market share agent in Mahomet. It changed the trajectory, of our business. But we would not have really recognized it had we not done the exercise and looked at these things. Because wanting to have luxury on your business card or be able to say luxury is very different from are we actually walking the walk? And if we're not, what do we have to do to go there? This is also really important if you're a larger team, and let's just say you've hired another listing agent, or another agent on your team has earned the right to do listings. This is also a good exercise to kind of see, where their niche is. We did find that we had, different agents have different methodology. Nate could always land a top listing. Ashley could always land that $300,000 to $600,000 listing. So take a look at that and really investigate, right? Inspect what you expect. The same thing goes, like we talked about, with lead source ROI. I added this in our drop down. So what you're going to see, or what you may be able to see now, and I haven't checked it today, is now when you go in to add a custom lead source in Command, it's broken out into categories. And they're categories that make sense, right? Marketing, relationships, prospecting. It takes you the source, which is Zillow, and the source category, meaning marketing, meaning we're paying for it, or it is a place that is marketed to consumers, and they have, for whatever reason, found us without jumping on one of the paid lead agents. But it's really important to be able to kind of look at that, because if you're looking holistically at every lead source that came in and the business that you actually did, you'll be able to start to put it in like these categories or buckets. Like, are we a relationship business, or are we really heavily a marketing based business, and our ROI is significantly lower because of what we're having to pay? And again, it becomes a matter of clarity, right? If you do the exercise, you're going to start to see patterns. You're going to start to see where you can get the most bang for your buck. And I would include whatever Facebook campaigns that you've done on Command this year, or even directly on Facebook. Make sure you're adding those, right? So here's the deal: lead source ROI. If you are paying for something, if you are doing something, even if you don't have any closed buyers or sellers, if it's costing you money, it needs to be on this worksheet. Because if you're doing something and it's giving you 0 results, that's one of those, this isn't working. What do we need to tweak? The next thing is really that systems audit. So this is one of the pieces that we have in our toolbox as well. And we've broken out all the major players under each of the categories: CRM, marketing, scheduling, the things that we use in real estate. And a systems audit is really about analyzing the cost, the use, who is using it, is it being used correctly, is it being used consistently, is it effective, is it actually giving you back time, is it allowing you greater transparency, what does that look like? Do you have a gap and you need to train or you need to revise your SOP? So a systems audit is really important as you're going into your planning for 2021. The next thing is we want to red light, green light it, right? So we've actually put in our toolbox an internal systems analyst, and it really prompts you through just some of the basic questions. What's the annual cost? So if Boomtown's $1,500 a month, let me do that math real quick. If we're doing $1,500 a month times 12, that's $18,000 a year for Boomtown. I would hope that on your lead source ROI, you're seeing Boomtown as lead source that is giving you an ROI on that, right? Like that's how the systems play together. But we also want to know what's the cost per user. So that's also another important price point. Do you have 10 users on it, which obviously brings the cost per user down, or do you have 1 or 2 people on it? And so if you've got 2 people on it, that's $750 a user per month. Is it actually giving you what you need? Pros and cons, those are subjective. And I encourage you to ask everybody, right? You, as an admin, may have a bias of what you think the pros and cons are. An agent who is using the tool is likely to have a different perspective, and both are equally important, and both should be considered when you're doing the systems analysis. All systems, guys, have to be scalable. If you're growing a business and you want to continue to stay in business, we need to understand, is this something that is scalable? Meaning I could bring in another 5 people into the organization. We could do another 100 transactions next year. Whatever those pieces are, and that this system can scale. We can easily train it. It's affordable. It's going to be effective, and it's going to have our back. And does Command have a solution for it? So, in this piece, we'll tell you right here what part of Command does the heavy lifting on the CRM portion, so that you can actually do a sort of a true evaluation of what you have and is it working. So I don't expect any of you to get real crazy fancy, review your engagement, have a dashboard, but Exec Assist supports agents all over the country. I have agent partners coast to coast, in the Midwest, in the South, in the Plains. And so we needed an ability to really see if what we were doing in terms of email engagement was working. And we're going to get into this a little deeper when it comes to building out your engagement plan. But we have an engagement plan where an SOI touch goes out on the 15th of the month to a very specific demographic. A LORE, language of real estate, email goes out on the 25th of the month. Again, very specific demographic. And then a weekly sales pipeline email goes out only to people in the sales pipeline. So the messaging is very specific to the audience. Right now, if you go and Google MailChimp engagement statistics, you will see for the industry under real estate, that is a 19% open rate on average, and it is a 1.7% click rate. We know that ours overall, and these are all of our agents, every newsletter we've sent all over the country, have a 25.34% open rate, definitely outperforming industry average, and we have a 3.44 click rate. Why is that important? Well, we know that the people that are, number one, opening your emails aren't deleting you. They're actually, something about it hitting their inbox is compelling enough for them to open it, meaning they recognize who you are, you have something of value to share with them, they're curious. And that's awesome. We want people to open. But the next step to that is, did they click on anything? And one of the ways that we really drive this is your admin team or you as an individual agent can send 1 million emails a year. I don't suggest it, but you could. That is not engagement. You are delivering a value piece, but that you're not engaging. When the audience sees it, opens it, and then clicks it, they're engaging to you. So the next step is you have to engage back to them. So one of our systems is that our emails always go out at 10 a.m. local time on the specified date. So they know on the 15th of the month, they're getting an SOI newsletter in their email box every month at the same time. And at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, our agents are getting a call list that says, these are the people that opened, clicked, and they clicked 123 Main Street 4 times. So then it's up to the agent to drive that engagement piece. So this is a really great way to say, is what we're sharing working? Is the value enough that people are consistently opening and clicking? And then do the exercise. Straight out of the MREA model, do the 12-to-2 ratio. If you had 6,865 hand raises in a year, that means that there were 572 sets of 12. And out of that 572, they should be giving you 2 pieces of business that are going to close in the next year. So, over 1,000 pieces of business. And if you have an average GCI of $9,000, that's over $10 million in GCI. Now, again, this is a huge scale, right? Like we're handling 40 or 50 agents across the country, but this applies no matter what size your business is. And it's always important that we're connecting those dots as we go through the system. And this is the other. Activity is often unrelated to productivity, and busyness rarely takes care of business. So what we're doing and when we're doing it matters. So it matters a whole heck of a lot if somebody has raised their hand by clicking links in your emails, that we take that as a dollar productive activity and make that call, right? An agent making a flyer probably isn't a good use of time. An agent trying to figure out a new system probably isn't a good use of time. So just keep bringing them back to what is the most dollar productive activity. So once you know where you've been, right, then we have to go, okay, so we have all this data. We have a data set that tells us where we've been, what's working, where did we spend our money, where are we getting the most bang for our buck, what are the things that not just felt good for us, but felt good for our client experience, and how do we replicate that? And then how do we build out the planning for 2021? So the primary tools I have for you is the 2021 economic model. This is nothing I created. This is just your a bargain basement, MREA, Excel 2021 economic model. I've also put together in the toolbox a client experience option. We're going to dig into that a little bit more. Like I said at the beginning, the consumer wants to know, number one, that they matter. Number two, that they feel special. So I can't remember it's a phone commercial, but you know how I don't know if you've seen it, and the people go in and they're like, am I the only one that gets this? And I know I'm the special one. And the phone rep lady's like, no, this is really for everybody. Well, we know that what we're doing is for everybody, but we want that individual to feel like they have a personal connection with you, or that there is something with your business that resonates with them. So how do we create an experience that is true and authentic to your brand? The other is annual engagement plan. If you guys walk away with nothing else today, please throw away the verbiage of 36 touch. The 36 touch served its purpose, and it needs to now be retired out to sea. Again, we all work on bite-sized information that we want tailored to us as individuals. A 36 touch doesn't even come close to being able to do that. So we're going to dig into what annual engagement plan actually even means. 2021 organizational charts. So in January of 2015, I took my very first Recruit Select, and it was taught by one of the top expansionists. And one of the things he said that day is, I always have my org chart with me, and I have my current org chart, and then I have my org chart for what I want the organization to look like in 5 years. And he did that because it kept it top of mind. Number one, he was always looking for talent. He always knew where the gaps were in his business in terms of people. And so if he was at an event, or he was, doing a training, and he met somebody that he immediately was like, I got to know more about this person. He had that organizational chart and that missing persons report. And he knew exactly the kind of person that he wanted to talk to. And I think that's a lot of times what I see happening on teams is, and it happens with agents and with admin, we hire out of pain, or we hire because it's easy. And so it's really easy when you've got those new agents in your market center who are like, I'll do an open house for you. I'll do this. I'd love to be on your team, blah, blah, blah. And we bring them on board, but we haven't really thought out, like, are they the right fit culturally? Are they the right fit for our standards and expectations? Have we even defined it? Do they have grind, right? Like, do they have enough grit that they're willing to come in and run a sprint for 100 days and earn their seat on the bus? And with admin, 9 times out of 10, agents hire somebody that was referred to them, a friend, a family member, and they hire because they're in pain, meaning they're overwhelmed, there's too much stuff to do, and they just want to throw it at somebody else. So the organizational chart missing persons report is really a really important piece of what we're doing. So if we go in, we have a missing persons report that's going to walk you through every single step in the toolbox. It's going to tell you the questions you should be asking. It's going to give you sample job descriptions in 30, 60, 90s. And it also gives you an actual sample of what a missing persons report looks like, so you can build one out for each role that you want to fill. Your 2021 economic model has a place where you are going to actually add in how many staff members, how many agents are you adding to the team? Don't miss that step, because it will affect your budget model, and it's really important that you know how much revenue you have to have and how much profit you have to have in order to pull the trigger to bring somebody new into your organization. The other thing is when you're looking at the economic model, it's going to tell you what your lead gen money is, right? It's going to say, oh, based on this production, you have this pot of money that is earmarked specifically for lead gen. So I want you to think when you're doing your planning, are you using command campaigns? We know that just like at Mega Camp, Facebook is generating high volume, low quality leads. So low quality meaning it is a longer acquisition to conversion to close. So they're probably easily 9 to 12 months out. A lot of times they've just haphazardly clicked and they ended up in your click funnel. So if you're going to do Facebook campaigns, what is the strategy? Who are you attracting? What, are these leads that you're going to give to your younger, less seasoned agents on your team just for them to cut their teeth on good lead generation habits? And the same goes for Google ads, right? Like you can run the Google ads through command, and we know you're going to get a lower quantity, but a much higher quality lead. These are people that have gone online and they have searched homes in Bellflower, Illinois, right? So you have to understand those keywords. You have to understand who you're trying to attract and where you want to be able to, build those lead funnels in. But you have to think about it. And then you want to come into what's the plan. So for every listing above X price point, we're going to do a 7-day ad for this amount of dollars. And then this is the return that we're looking for, right? This is the number of leads we're looking for. The next step to that is, what is the acquisition to conversion plan? Now, command is amazing. And we have now opened up the Smart Plan library where people are able to just throw in their smart plans. It's fabulous. I always say, take it, make it yours, which means customize it, because something I write in my voice may not be the voice of your agents, right? But the framework may be good. So don't reinvent the entire wheel if you don't have to, but make sure you're tailoring it to your business. The other thing is you need to have a best practices guide that says we acquire a Facebook lead. And when that lead comes in, we are automatically going to put them on the Facebook Smart Plan follow-up. We're going to put them on the KW app Smart Plan. We're going to tag them as a buyer. We're going to mark them as a lead. So you have that plan, right? Like these are the things that are going to happen. What are the expectations of the agents and moving it in from just a lead into your lead pool and taking it and putting it into opportunities. So opportunities is your sales pipeline, guys. And it's going to be really, really important that as you are, setting this up for next year, what's the trigger for your agents to put that lead into the pipeline? So in our world, our best practices, anybody that is 6 months or less out. So this is somebody that has been qualified. You've had a conversation with, and you know what their timeline is. And then they go into the sales pipeline or opportunities. And the reason this is really important is for your metrics, the ability to see how everyone's doing and how to adjust your sales. So the acquisition to conversion plan is really, really important. And then the other thing is quarterly client engagement. So I talk to a lot of agents every week and in trainings like this, and they'll say to me, oh yeah, like I do stuff, like I send a calendar. I try to do like a happy hour. I sometimes sign up for the Santa thing at the market center. What I'm going to challenge each of you to do is build it. Identify your budget. And again, you're going to get that budget out of your lead gen budget, right? On your economic model. And then identify your dates. Pick your dates. Open the calendar. Pick them. And what I'll tell you is if you can do this, every event, every client engagement, and I won't even call it an event, should be a 90-day cycle. Are we starting to see a pattern? Every 90 days, you should be finishing one and starting the next. It shouldn't be a surprise. I would also look at who are the people in your world that can do sponsorships, right? Do you have a lender that you work with very, very closely? Does your pest inspector want to be branded on all of your client engagement pieces? So, I maybe wouldn't do that if you were sending pizza, but you get the idea. Like, identify who those sponsors are, make the ask now, because right now, your allied resources, who could be your sponsors, they're budgeting for 2021. They're going through the exact same process we are. So if we wait until June to ask for sponsor money, all their sponsor money could already have been allocated. Ask now. And if you're able to say, this is going to be our plan for 2021, and these are the opportunities that we see where we could, really market and co-brand with you, they're going to be more likely to cut you a check or say, absolutely, I'm all in. I want to do every client touch you do. So before you even get to picking your client engagement, I really want to ask three main questions. Do you know the demographic of your database? And some people know it. Like, they can say the majority of my database is 35 to 40. They're in their second homes. They're waiting for their kids to get out of high school before they make their next move. Some people aren't really clear on that. It's important to know who your demographic is. So again, we can tailor the engagement and make it more one-to-one versus one-to-many. What does your database want from you? Do they want you to call them every 90 days? Would they come to an event? How do they want to communicate? Like, there's a lot of things in there that if you would just ask them, they'll tell you. I have an agent who's a good friend of mine and that I've worked with in Champaign, and she actually, in her quarterly calls each year, she asks something different. So she'll say, hey, I'm just calling to check in, and I have a question. Do you prefer sweet or salty snacks? And most people are kind of like, what? And she'll ask that question, and they'll say, oh, yeah, I'm definitely a sweet person. And then the follow-up is, okay, well, what's your favorite sweet snack? And they tell her. Well, we have the ability in Command to build out custom fields. So how cool is it if we knew they're a sweet or a salty person, or what their favorite sports team is, or, what is their favorite type of engagement? Do they want to come to a small client event? Do they want to be at a family event? Do they just want things by email? Just ask them. Because wouldn't it make sense to spend your dollars and your energy doing the things that the people in your database actually want instead of what you think they want? And here's my other piece to this. Once you hear from them, nobody says you need to do 4 big in-person events a year. Our strategy was that we did one in-person big event every year for our general database. We did a VIP. So like your raving top 10% of your database, your raving fans, your top refers, your luxury buyers and sellers. And then we did a drop by, and then we did a mail event. As we've seen during COVID, virtual, right, it has come up. So we, since March, we have done Netflix parties, we've done bingo games, we've done hashtag events. Like, all kinds of fun stuff that you could do. You could partner with your animal rescue and do like a virtual fundraiser. But the goal is to take this and really start thinking through what are the things that we could do that are, one, not going to take us away from the really important stuff that we do every day and getting new clients in our world set up for success and moving leads to closed, right? Like at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. So how do we do this on a 90-day rhythm that makes sense? And what are the things that, again, are a representative of who your business is, what your brand is? We did a swim party for everybody in our database. Everybody was invited. It was always the same weekend in June. We rented out a pool and lazy river and water slide, like little park. We had food trucks. We had raffles and games, and we had a custom Snapchat filter. And so it is a huge event, and because we do it consistently year in and year out, it gets a heck of a lot easier to do, because as you do things more, you get into a rhythm. It also is one of the favorite events of the year that our agents or our client base really, really enjoyed. It was just a fun evening. Everybody got to be there. There was something for everybody. So I told you a little bit earlier, I was going to give you a peek of what an engagement plan is, and we're going to throw away the words, 36 touch. So I'm going to share my screen here. Oh, well, maybe I'm not. Oh, yep. Application window, Chrome tab. Here we go. I've never done this before, so this is a good one. Okay. So this, guys, is what we put together for 2020 as our sample engagement plan. First off, can you guys all see it? It looks like you can. Okay. So what we did was we sat down and we said, all right, we know in order to get the highest engagement via email, we got to get really specific. And so we had to ask ourselves some specific questions in terms of when, like, what is the rhythm, right? This is an executable plan. So we need to know, when are things due? So if it's going to go out on the 15th of the month, that's great. How is it going out? Well, currently we're still using MailChimp. We're likely going to be transitioning into Command Mail in January. But right now, and in 2020, it was MailChimp. We got the best bang for our buck there. Then the who. And I think this is the most important. If you did nothing else, it is who gets what. And sphere of influence, guys, is not a single tag. Sphere of influence is a bucket. It includes past clients, raving fans, referral partners, friends, family, yada, yada. But you define who is in that bucket. And that way you can identify who gets the sphere of influence. I find it valuable as you're adding new agents, or you're adding new admin, or people come and go, or as you're getting used to it, what are the notes? Like, what did you decide while you were doing your planning that the SOI newsletter is actually going to do? In our case, the SOI newsletter tells a personal story of the agent, team, and brand. It focuses on the agent's personal highlights for the month. These could be anything from planning a new garden to being nominated for an award, or even something related to their family. There is very little about real estate in this newsletter. We typically include 3 or 4 new listings or just sold at the very bottom of the newsletter with a link to the agent website. So no matter who is on our team, no matter how many agents we onboard, it is very clear what we're sending, an SOI newsletter, when we're sending it, every month on the 15th, how we're sending it, which is MailChimp, and who we're sending and what that content is actually going to be. By doing this, it has allowed us to get into a solid execution rhythm. We've never missed sending out an SOI newsletter because we had an execution strategy that made sense. Same thing with social engagement. One of the things that we do that we absolutely love about Command is the ability that we can come in and pre-plan up to 30 days in advance, really, what our social strategy is going to be, and then start scheduling all of those. So it doesn't have to be done every single morning. We know what time we want it to post on what day. And again, we have a theme that goes along with this. And it's really just about consistency. We know consistency is what the key is. So if people just know that every morning at 10:30, you're going to have, a piece of social content, they're going to be able to find it. We also do the 80-20 rule, meaning 80% is general. It could be, like we do Monday motivation. We'll do like a Tech Tuesday where we'll give a tech tip on like how to use Canva or how, the new iPhone that just rolled out, something more general. And then on Wednesday and Friday, it's very real estate. So it could be, if it's the week of the lore, it could be that the lead agent is doing a market snapshot video that we're uploading. So it's not just stagnant, content, but it's engaging. And then always on Fridays, we're very listing heavy and open house heavy because again, people are looking at what do I want to go see this weekend? Is there an open house that I want to look at? The event and engagement examples that we looked at before, you want them on your overall plan. This should be like your Bible, right? I look at this and I have it up almost every single day because I'm either referencing it for somebody or having a conversation with an agent or a VA around it. And it really becomes, this is what we do to engage with our client base. And we even built out the Command Smart Plans. What Smart Plans are they going on? When do they go? Who's getting put on them? And we, as a result, also have a best practices on our database. So when you're looking at engagement and we're planning for 2021, we know our numbers. We know we wanted to close 100 units. But what is that safety net underneath those 100 units that are going to engage enough people to get them to buy or sell with you or refer you business? And that's what that engagement plan really is. And then it comes back to evaluate, right? So we started with evaluate. We're evaluating 2020. We're planning for 2021. We're creating an execution plan, which is your engagement plan. And, your acquisition to conversion plan for leads. But we need to track it. And so track every action that relates to the area of your life you want to improve. All winners are trackers. So it's not just enough, guys, though, to track it. We need to evaluate it, analyze it, right? So it's easy to say, well, I put my goals in Command and we have this spreadsheet. But if you're not, again, inspecting what you inspect holistically and by agent, you're missing the forest for the trees. We need to go in and be looking at what is working, what's not working, what's working okay that we can tweak. And there's a rhythm to that. So I do encourage you, no matter what, that when it allows you to enter the 2021 goals after you've done your planning process, you would go in and you're going to set those up for each team member on your team. So every agent on your team should have some goals added. And so, they continue to really fine tune this, and there's some great data here, including a profit tracker. There's also going to be activities breakdown. So part of your execution plan, remember, is I said, like, what happens from lead acquisition to conversion, and then what's happening from sales pipeline to close. Well, we need to know what that plan is, because then how are we tracking the activities? Are we adding notes? Are we, saying, hey, I made my call. It was on my call list and I clicked that task off. That activities breakdown will show. And you have the ability to track this by the week, by the month, by the year. And again, at the very top of this, you can click the whole team, or you can click by agent. You're then going to start to see that lead funnel. And this is really powerful. And I think for lead admin and mega agents or rainmakers, this is critically important to be looking at. You're going to be they're going to tell a story, and you're going to start to see where agents need a little bit more support in terms of training, mindset, whatever that looks like. And then you're going to start to see your GCI breakdown, right? How many are buyers? How many are sellers? It kind of all rolls together. So my suggestion is that every week at team meetings, you got that up there, right? You're on a screen somewhere, you're pulling up the reports in Command or CTE or wherever you're tracking your data, and you're reviewing it. Everything we focus on expands. We have to know where we're going. And we have to be able to evaluate and pivot as we need to. I would say that there should be a monthly leadership meeting where you're sitting down with the leaders, whether that's your rainmaker and your director of operations, if you have a director of sales, whoever is sitting in leadership seats that have people underneath them, needs to be in this meeting once a month, where you are looking at all the data points. Where's our listing inventory currently? Where's our listing pipeline? How are each agent tracking in regards to their goals? How's our engagement planning? The engagement strategy. Are people opening, clicking? Are we seeing the follow-up that needs to happen? And then every 90 days, you're going to go through a quarterly business review. And it's basically a mini evaluation like we did at the very beginning, right? You're going to look over the last 90 days. Where's our business? Are we on track to hit our goals? What's our goals versus actuals? Where's our listing inventory? What's our lead source ROI? Where are we on finding our missing person? So if you're doing that every 90 days, it allows you to get clarity. And what I will tell you is that you don't want to make big 180-degree changes. You're actually going to get, you want to make what are called micro pivots, right? So the first 90 days, you're going to look, is the system that we moved to, is it working? Yes, and, right? It needs some tweaks. Well, we're not going to, again, throw the system out. We're going to identify what tweaks need to be made, and then we're going to move the needle ever so slightly. And then the next 90 days, we're going to come back and we're going to say, okay, so we made this modification 90 days ago. Was that the right thing to do? Did it move the needle for us one way or the other? I think this gives you a much greater understanding, and you become more flexible, right? If you're starting to look at this weekly, monthly, and quarterly, and it becomes the culture of your team. I'll tell you a couple things that happened. And I ran a large team. The people that are talent and love accountability, and not like, oh, I love accountability, but like value accountability. They understand why it's so important. They will continue to show up and they will rise to the occasion. They are going to blossom, so to speak. And we're not talking sledgehammer accountability. We're talking Mo Anderson velvet hammer accountability, right? But you're also going to have people on your team that are very, very uncomfortable. And this may end up being not a great cultural fit. And so when that happens, it's okay. And your business will thrive regardless. It just will. And you're going to have people that come and go on your team. The whole idea here is, who are you as a brand? What is your value proposition, both to your clients and potential clients, and also to the people in your world? And if you can hold that accountable and you can stay true to that, and that you're constantly evaluating those things, you will become stronger as a unit, and you're going to attract like-minded people. So if you have that missing persons report and you have all of these pieces in play, all of a sudden you're not having to beat the bushes, right? You're not like, oh my God, where am I going to find a talented person? You're going to start attracting it, and people are going to start showing up in your world. So don't be scared of the evaluation piece, and don't become emotionally attached to the outcomes you want. Become logical and business minded, right? What's working? What's within our control to change? And then how do we take this a step further? So I want to offer you guys some more value. This was a very much 100,000-foot view of a business plan. We have put together an 8-hour on-demand training where we'll actually dig into each of these tools very specifically, and we'll actually talk through, what does a team meeting look like? What does a team advanced planning look like if you haven't done it yet? How can you utilize these tools to get you going? That's an 8-hour on-demand training. It includes the toolbox. So if you pay for the training, you're going to get everything in the toolbox. There will be a weekly live Q&A with me. So we'll show up here, you come, you bring your questions, and for an hour, I'm going to try to answer those questions and give you solutions. And then for the entirety of 2021, we're going to do a live review session. So every 90 days, you're bringing your stuff, and ideally this is going to be before you do it with your team or with your mega, and we're looking at things, and we're asking questions and poking holes and black hatting some things and celebrating other things. And but it's a great way for you to take the baseline knowledge today and really become an expert in it. Now, some of you are like, I can't sit through 8 hours of on-demand training. That is way too much. We also have just the toolbox that will offer you a 20% discount code on. It is every piece of what you need to build out an executable business plan, all of the models, all of the review pieces, reading lists, agendas, literally every piece that you can take and are customizable. So you can actually take them, turn them into your colors, your logo, brand it, and be the hero in your office. And we're offering that. So what's going to happen is you are going to get a follow-up email that's auto-generated through Zoho, and it's going to tell you this. However, we'll be sending a separate email directly from my email account. So it'll come from Tanya@execusassist.me. You will have a coupon code in there that allows you to either sign up for the on-demand training. There'll be a link for that, and it'll apply your discount. Or if you just want the toolbox, there'll be a link to the toolbox with the 20% discount code there. Please do not share these discount codes. It really is for the people in the room. And I would like to now open it up. I see we've got a couple questions and maybe a chat. And I want to know Oh, all right. So, Mindy, sorry, I cannot give you the copy of my slides on this one. There is what I can do, and I will do this, is all the things, the tools that you need. So what are the pieces that you need to use for evaluation and planning? I'll send you a checklist of those. So Rebecca asked, what did the last section of SMART plans under your engagement plan spreadsheet track exactly and look like? So let's go look at that real quick because I kind of went super fast. So you'll see on here, obviously review requests and referral requests aren't standard SMART plans, but they can be built in. And so we actually use these to pull lists, and we do a quarterly review request and a referral request. And what it's actually tracking is what are the standard SMART plans that we're going to use, and that comes into that acquisition to conversion to closing system, right? So we have we know for every open house lead SMART plan, for every open house person that comes in, they're going to go onto this SMART plan. So these are just the ones that we offer our clients. Now, what we also have is a database best practices guide. And that database best practices guide is also on our store, and I will add a link to that. But basically, it says a lead comes into my pipeline. What are all the steps that have to happen with that lead? What are the tags we're tagging them? How are we assigning them out to the agent? What SMART plans do they go on? What email lists do they go on? And so this is like an overview, and then that best practices, almost like an SOP for leads and contacts, really refines like every single step of the process. And I think it's really helpful when you go through this exercise of business planning for 2020 or 2021, that you build that something like that out for your team and make it available, because it becomes a reference guide more than anything. If somebody has a question, if we're holding things accountable, we can say this is how it should look. And if I'm auditing, all the new Facebook leads that came in, do we have that? All right. Does anybody else have any questions? I appreciate everybody throwing their info in the chat. There is a handout. There's a link to the client experience ideas. And I promise I will actually send out the list of tools that you need, and I'll add the link to the handout again so that you have that. But you can always reach out to me at Tanya@execassist.me. This is our website. We also have a shop, so it's execassist.me/shop. We do have, starting in November, an actual engagement bundle. So you could come in, it's $99 a month. And when you go into the shop, what you're getting is a complete 30 or 31 day calendar, all of your social media templates that you can then brand or not brand, completely up to you, a SMART plan, and a blog post or an email that you can send out to your database. And so if you are a smaller team and you just need something, but you don't need to hire someone else, and you maybe don't have the bandwidth to create, those are some of the options that we're putting in. And we're also going to be adding in for 2021 an actual engagement plan. Like, you can come in and you can download the email and all the pieces that need to go out for a particular month. So that'll be coming out in December for January. PJ, you are very welcome. Thank you all for being here again, and I look forward to talking to you all soon. If you need anything, Tanya, Tawnya, at execusassist.me. I would be glad to set up a time to talk to you and maybe do a bigger deep dive on this. So thank you again. I will see you all soon.